Most small business owners rush into hiring because they think a full-time employee will solve their problems. But here's the truth. Hiring can actually slow you down and drain your cash if you do it too soon. In this episode, I'm breaking down the real options you have: employing, outsourcing, perhaps freelancers, even automation with the world of AI nowadays as well, and how to decide what's right for your business. That's the most important thing, because this can really make and break, especially if you're a founder and not been on that journey of employment yet. So let's discuss the options, the pros and the cons around it. And I've got Ketan with me today, who owns an outsourcing business. Ketan, give us a bit of a background about you. I'm trying to give your background away, but you live this world, right? So tell us about what you do.
Firstly, Lewis, thanks for having me on the show. Really great to be here. So I'm Ketan Gajjar, founder and director at RPO Arena. With over 2 decades of experience working with the UK businesses, primarily helping them. One is, obviously drive efficiencies, and then two is scale, and then three is reduce cost. That's what I do. Helping solopreneurs, mid-sized businesses, large companies to review what works best onshore, what can be best outsourced, or should not. So that's what I do. That's my bread and butter, day in, day out.
Yeah, so you also consult, don't you? I guess if we paint the picture to the listener right now. So imagine, listeners, that you're drowning in admin. Your customers want more from you, and you're stretched to a breaking point now. Where do you go with it? You think maybe I just need to hire someone. It feels like the only answer, because that's what Uncle Bob did. And that's what somebody off Dragon's Den is doing. They're employing and they're teaching you this stuff, or you may have watched somebody on YouTube. But what most business owners don't realize is that the second you employ someone, you're not just paying the salary, you're taking on the taxes, the NI, the pensions, the compliance, sick leave, training, and the constant management that comes with it. Suddenly, that one hire doesn't look so cheap. And Ketan, you got a lot of employees. I've got a lot of employees across 9 different businesses. They're the soul of the business. You do need to have these people, but ever since COVID as well, more and more people want to be online. So why do we need to hire within the UK when there are great people out there, high level skills? I even have somebody that's working in your office right now for me, Sakshi. She's got a master's in marketing, and she's brilliant. So I just think we need to break some myths, Ketan, of why do people think the default thinking is that most entrepreneurs perhaps they think full time is the next step. How would you consult somebody on this to get them to think maybe a little bit differently about what you do?
Certainly. So, speaking from experience of building a business from the scratch, back in 2020 December
Yeah.
onwards, and then the bigger question is, which every entrepreneur, starting solo or with investments, thinks: should I employ or should I not? And then that's a very big question, as of today, especially with the rising wages, employer NI and the potential employment rights bill coming in the UK. Now, if I talk about outsourcing, it's horses for courses. It works where it works, but expecting outsourcing to do everything is utopian. So the primary question that the owners must ask, and then obviously you covered the first point very well, Lewis, there, is a cost perspective. That are you able to take on a fixed cost, and it's not just the salary. So just to give the perspective, a 30 grand salary in the UK is not 30 grand. All loaded is probably 40,000 pounds. In black and white. Which includes NI, pensions, other costs. But then what it does not include, and most of the times the balance sheets, and you know this, Lewis, from your investments and other businesses that you work with, is the amount of time the chief execs and the entrepreneurs they invest in hiring, interviewing, onboarding, training, day-to-day management, and the biggest part is staff retention. Now, all this time does not reflect on the balance sheet. So that's number one, and this is a sort of a framework, that I use to talk to founders and leaders to evaluate that, if they're ready for outsourcing, or if they're ready for freelancers, or if they're ready for hiring somebody part time or full time onshore. The other point is, obviously, control and quality. That do you really need that person to be in-house to be able to deliver the level of quality you want them to? And then that links in, very well with the with the kind of role. So if it's a client-facing role, hands down, you want to make sure that the person is within your business. If they're interacting, and then again, depends on the trajectory of the business. If you already scaled the business to a certain level, then you're open to take a call that, okay, fine, a part of this job can be done by a freelancer, or part-time, remote worker, wherever they are, or outsourcing. And then the third angle, definitely is the uh, growth. So if you're a solopreneur and you think that I need to build a core team right now and I want to hire a full-time employee, again, think about the point number one, which you made, about the cost perspective. That do you
Yeah.
have enough roadmap to build that core team right now, or do you want to use a ladder approach, which is start with freelancer, then proceed with outsourcing, even part-time outsourcing, then grow it to full-time, then hire somebody part-time, onshore, and then go full-time and build your core team, depending on obviously what's your cash situation. So that's my ideal framework, which I talk to, but when I talk to business leaders in the UK and the US.
Yeah, and I think from a solopreneur, we've got all sorts of different listeners here. We've got people who are just starting up in their first 1 year, 2 years. People who are thinking about starting up. We've got the business owners that are going through their first 3 to 5, approaching the million mark, depending on the model, of course. And then we've got listeners that are 20 people plus already, and they're going, well, we've already got the employees. So a few scenarios that I've got from different companies. The ones with the less employees on. Take my personal brand, for example,
Yeah.
lewishaydon.com. If we look on there, so I've got somebody who's doing content for me all the time. And what I used to do 2 years ago was use freelancers. In the back of my mind, the freelancer is there and they always want to charge a little bit more because they, if there's extra work to be had, it's like, whether they want your work or do they want someone else's work? And even though you might have somebody who's on board and they're committed to you at the time, as soon as they start to get a bit of a reputation, they can drop you and go with somebody else. And then what tends to happen is either the quality of work drops or they're late on the delivery. So, for instance, like a video editor, yeah. Then they could get more clients and they want to build their business anyway. So why wouldn't they? And that then reflects your reliability and how you show up. I mean, Ketan, you're a marketing guy as well. I see your content that you're always putting up there. You've got to be consistent. And if your hands are in a freelancer, your whole business is in a freelancer, then how are you showing up? That can have an effect. That can make a big difference. So the next step is the outsourcing. And I like the outsourcing because I've got a 40-hour-a-week employee that I know what the numbers are. I know this is what I'm paying them for. I know their capacity. I now have to start thinking like a business owner rather than someone else is running my business. And that's what I really like with the outsourcing model there. But I also have businesses as well where I employ the marketers. And then the marketers will get to a point where they've got really important stuff to do and they're at capacity. And then we need to put a second employee or a second or third marketer in there. But we don't really need the marketer. We just need to start to think about how does this employee work more effectively and focus on the tasks that only they can do in the UK, for example, where I am, or in Australia or in the US or wherever. If we can leverage their time by outsourcing, you've now got your employee to have a mini employee, which is your outsourced person. So it's scalable, no matter whether you're a 5-man business, 50-man business. There's an opportunity there to just, kind of switch it on and off really and add more people. You're dealing with some big companies, Ketan. That's my experience. Could you add anything to that or anything that you see?
Absolutely. So in theory, that's precisely how it should work. Where you mentioned, Lewis, to leverage your time to work on core activities, which is primarily, if you look at any business, a business owner has two core objectives. One is to attract clients, and then two is to attract people who can deliver quality services or products to those clients. These are two primary objectives of an entrepreneur or a leader, irrespective of the size of the business, because that is what impacts the bottom line. Now, in my experience, again, lots of entrepreneurs and lots of leaders, they understand outsourcing. Again, the bigger question and is control. So especially when you're at a very early stage in setting up your business, you'd think, okay, fine, I need somebody right beside me, irrespective of the type of work they're going to be doing. So let's take example of your brand, which you're managing, right now, which is digital marketing content.
Yeah.
In the ideal scenario, what you did was you started with freelancers, you evaluated the volume of work, and then obviously you also weighed in the pros and cons. That, okay, fine, if I continue with freelancers long term, this is the impact, positive and negative. So what's the downside? The downside is there going to be consistency in quality? That's number one. Number two is the consistency when it comes to actually posting your content. And then what is the price you'll be paying for not doing it consistently? So you weighed that in, and then obviously you looked at outsourcing. We discussed, a couple of times in terms of reviewing the job spec and then, finding the right person. So that's the process we followed. And that's the biggest bottleneck for most leaders when they decide or think, okay, can I have somebody else do this job? And then will they be able to do 100% exactly like for like? Now, it's utopian. Every business leader, entrepreneur wants that, but there is certain percentage of sacrifice that you have to make. And then obviously that is then leveled up through training and development, because that's where the process comes into picture. But you'll only have time for the process when you actually have somebody take a bit of your workload. If it's an hour, a couple of hours, depending on, again, where you are. And then that's my experience, that yes, outsourcing works. You start with something which is very simple, and then the framework is anything which is simple, administrative, time consuming, and repetitive in nature. Those are the activities you can look to either hire somebody part-time, freelancer, or outsource. It's a very simple framework, across sectors, across businesses.
Yeah, and I get it. So to play like devil's advocate a little bit, these are some of the thoughts that I thought about before I decided to outsource. Of what I thought in my mind, I believe this to be true. But now going through the process, I now believe, why didn't I do this earlier? So what I was thinking at the time was, okay, I can do my own social media marketing. It needs me. I can't get someone else to do it. I don't want to do AI stuff. I want to be on camera and I want to be doing the content. Look at the content that it needs. I need to be doing podcasts like this. It's me. I can't employ someone else to do that. How can I leverage this content? So before, what would happen is I would spend around about, in my mind, I was spending 30 minutes a day to get my social media posts done. I do a thing where I post twice a day. So as long as I could schedule it into like a scheduling app, it would be okay. So not much thought behind it. That'll do. A little bit of caption to it. Here's a nice video. And then what was happening is I'd end up on my phone at night. Oh, I've got to get this post ready for tomorrow. I've got to set up a studio and things and record loads of stuff. And I need to do some of this. And the reality was, it was probably taking about 10, 12 hours of my week. Since I've now got rid of it, those 12 hours I've got back to have sales calls meetings, more coaching clients on board, spending more time with the businesses and the senior leaders and developing them, going away to networking, being at conferences, meeting other investors and entrepreneurs. We're starting something up in Dubai now, all because I've now got the time. And whenever I go onto my LinkedIn, I can see that the content has been polished up. It's been thought about. It's been given some love. If that was a agency, they would just be getting anything out there. But if I don't like it, I'll go and talk to my employee, which is, through you guys. Yeah. Hey, how's it going? What have you learning? Can you go and read this book? This is some really interesting stuff. I want you to grow. I want you to learn. You don't want to be training a freelancer up to go and get more clients. You need to be training your own staff up. So these are just some of the steps along the way that I've seen that have gone, this has really, really helped me. And I remember speaking to you, Ketan, how many hours do I need of this person? You went, 40 hours, Lewis. It's a full-time employee.
Yeah.
I went, no, it's not. I can do it in 5. But you know what? It quickly fills up and she messages me, Lewis, my 40 hours are full right now. How did you ever do this on your own? I'm like, I don't know. I didn't. My LinkedIn views now are 10 times what they used to be 6 months ago because consistency. So having somebody there that you've sourced for me for the exact spec that I wanted has been wonders. And I can't believe that I used to think that I could do it on my own.
Well, so you could, and obviously you've done it, and then I think most business leaders they do it. But again, what's the price you're paying for doing the job? That's number one.
Yeah,
Number two is you got 50 things that you do on an average day,
yeah,
and content marketing or anything else is probably one of those 50 things that you have to focus on.
mm,
And when you're trying to schedule or when you're trying to post it in the night or write content, you're still distracted because that's something that's right here. Oh, I've got to post so that the post goes live tomorrow.
mm,
And yes, you could do it, but are you doing it consistently? And when I say consistently, it's not about every day. Are you doing it exactly at the same time, Monday to Friday, as per your calendar? That's consistency. That's
mm,
one. Two is, are you able to review the data or the feedback that you get from the stats, that what posts are working, what's not working, and then what do I need to tweak. That experimentation is another big avenue. So there are lots of things that an assistant team member can help you with. And obviously in our model, Lewis, like you got somebody working as a full-time equivalent, Monday to Friday as a part of your team, 8.5 hours a day. And then you echoed that some of the challenges or myths. I don't say this is a myth, but a lot of people have this misconception that somebody offshore, will they be able to understand what I need? And then when I say understand, it's from the comprehension perspective. That one is, how will they speak? Will their English communication skills be as good as somebody in house? That's one. And two is, obviously somebody's working 4.5, 5 hours ahead of my time. So will they be able to mirror the work hours, or how will they communicate? And then these are two biggest sort of concerns which people have. One is communication, English, which we've got brilliant people where we are in India, lots of talent with good English communication skills,
yeah. I
lots
agree.
of
By the way, I absolutely agree. From the experience I've had, that is yeah,
and then
very
two
true.
is obviously qualification, like you mentioned. Somebody who's got masters is working as a part of your team. So
Yeah,
so there are lots of advantages. The key is to one, be clear about what you want. What do you want your team to deliver? And again, taking our example, we went back and forth, isn't it, in terms of actually narrowing down on the spec. And
yeah.
then that is very imperative, that you have to be clear that what do you want your team member, and then this is key, irrespective of you hiring onshore or offshore. It doesn't matter, because if you're not clear, even if somebody in your office won't be able to deliver, because you don't know what you expect out of them.
Yeah. Well, the thing is as well, Ketan, so you come to the UK quite a lot, and do you live in the UK as well? By the way, do you have a place here?
I travel frequently, almost 4 to 5 times a year.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then it's a second home, I would say.
Well,
Virtually,
you
my,
probably
my
know of the new HR rules that are in place and everything. And this is where it gets a bit controversial on this podcast. Is that I always want to support and having local to Birmingham, West Midlands, where I'm from and born and things. And I want to employ people, apprentices. Because I have manufacturing plants as well. Apprentices. We always speak to local colleges and universities. So it's not about not redoing that, but you need specific skills here as well, whilst also protecting your profit margins. You need to make sure
yeah.
that the margin's there, because if there's no margin there and you're not making a profit, you're actually running a charity. And the business cannot survive. You can't grow, and then you can't pay people and hire more people in the UK or global if there's no margin there. So for me, when the HR stuff that's been put in place lately as well is restricting a lot of companies, because why would, as a business owner, if I want to employ somebody, I want to make sure that that person brings an ROI on the investment it's like an investment in properties and things, isn't it? That asset that you're employing needs to be able to make money or support people that make money. Now, they may be fantastic in the job interview, but Ketan, we've all been there where we've employed people and it's been like, this is not a win-win. This is not a win-win. And then you've got battles with the HR tightening up and things like that. So a lot of business owners that I speak to are just like, employing someone, that is such a pain. I'll just stay solopreneur forever.
Lewis, so I'll tell you three reasons why lots of UK companies consider, outsourcing wherever, obviously India, South Africa, Philippines, irrespective. Is one is so probably until 2010, 2015, cost was the primary driver, but the number one reason is access to skilled talent. Somebody who speaks good English, somebody who's got talent, replicating their processes, mirroring
And
what they
fast,
require,
getting it
and
fast as
within a
well.
short turnaround. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
In a shorter turnaround. So if they, it doesn't matter if they want one person or if they want 10.
yeah.
uh, in India, we've got access to talent. Number two is retention rates. Now, especially when it comes to any roles which are junior to middle level, retaining talent in the UK is more expensive today than ever, and that's a big bottleneck. So yes, as a solopreneur or as a small and medium sized business owner, it's painstaking to actually attract people, onboard them, and then obviously by the time it's 12 to 18 months, they are off looking for a new role, because obviously the inflation is high, the wages are rising, and then obviously they need to earn more to live well.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's another reason why a lot of owners are looking at, okay, fine, let's hire somebody offshore. And then the third option is the cost. Now, the cost is sort of very much relevant to first two. So they would say, okay, fine, instead of hiring one person onshore by paying £3,000 a month on an average, because the average salaries are between 30 and 40k now loaded, let me hire three, so I at least have 300% chance of making it a success. So out of three, let's say, two deliver, I can sort of work with two, I can get rid of the third one, and I still have backup. And I'm still saving at least 30, 33% of my monthly spend.
yeah, yeah. Something here as well. The margins. That's what we just covered there. Is the margins
Yeah.
are obviously a lot better, but especially in my business coaching world, we're all about getting the right people doing the right stuff, measuring and tracking the test and measuring the performance of it, and ensuring that people are accountable.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the time as well is, if you're working with a freelancer or some offshore companies, it can be like, there's your person, you deal with them, or the KPIs start to slip. Now, one thing that we haven't mentioned, Ketan, that I really like about what I get as a service from you is you've got a managed office there. You got a manager that you've employed for different times of the day to manage these people, and they're happy. They know exactly what I've given you the list of KPIs on my dashboard. This is what I expect from this person, and your team keep them accountable. So it's not just like there's a person. Good luck. You're always on it. I mean, Sashi tells me about. I've just been in a team meeting.
Yeah.
You have like your huddles. It's a big part of what we do is we talk about the huddles and the weekly meetings and things. You're doing that. You're living and breathing like the manual to what a great business coaching business looks like.
Certainly. So there's a big differentiator, when it comes to employing a VA, a virtual assistant,
Yeah,
which is the norm these days. That okay, fine, I've got a VA in the Philippines or South Africa or India, wherever they are,
yeah,
and more often than not, the VAs work from home, which is a entirely different model compared to what we do, and what's my background and my business partner Mac. We are a business process management company. We are not just
yeah,
a virtual assistant, so where you got Sashi, she's your problem now, I haven't got anything to do with it. No, we are accountable for making sure that the person arrives on time, takes their breaks on time, delivers on the KPIs on time, is looked after. So even from the dependency perspective, now this is where the process comes into picture. So you give me a KPI, Lewis, that okay, fine, Ketan, here are 10 things Sakshi is supposed to deliver. And then I do come back to you that yes, Lewis will be able to deliver this, but I have these dependencies on you as a business leader to help Sakshi deliver those numbers, whatever
yes,
whatever it is. So starting with feedback. So she'll post some content, and obviously you come back with fantastic feedback, good, bad, ugly. That's
yeah,
imperative for us to know, and that's where you need a robust management structure to ensure that okay, fine, somebody's hand holding the team member. They are the expert in terms of their skill set, but when it comes to supporting them on an average day. So that's one part. Two is, when you're working on a lot of repetitive administrative tasks, it's all about process. So the first phase is outsourcing, replicating exactly like for like. Phase two is driving efficiencies. So when you start, you're doing 10, probably, after 6 months, you should be able to do 12 if possible. And that's the emphasis that we have on process. So we come and tell you that, okay, fine, here are the tweaks that you can make to drive more efficiency in the same cost. That's something that a VA will not be able to deliver because they're standalone, they're working from home, and this is not their fault. It's just a different structure and different model altogether.
It's very clever, and you're also working on UK time, aren't you? So
Yes.
she's talking to me at 7 a.m. and she finishes at 4:30. She gets her breaks. Everything's fair. The time, the holidays are booked in, just like an employee. So here's something I never spoke to you about before then, Ketan. What led you to build this model? Because it's quite unique when you think about it, and we've discussed it today. For the entrepreneurs out there, I think there's some lessons now from a different angle that you could teach your entrepreneur journey of how you've seen a gap in the market, perhaps, and how you're scaling and where you're going with it. What's your visions are? Could you share some of that with us for the listeners?
Totally. So I've worked in this model and a shared services model for last 2 decades now, and thanks to obviously my previous employers who gave me the opportunity to learn and grow and thrive. The beauty about this model, again, is pure play accountability, because in shared services there is literally, I won't say zero accountability, but there is no commitment from either party, because that, okay, fine, you're giving it to a freelancer, or somebody who's going to spend 2 hours, whatever hours of the day, it doesn't matter. So talking about the dedicated resource, or somebody who's working exclusively for you, drives consistency and quality both at much lesser investment. And that's what got us to build this model and replicate this across businesses, small, medium, and large size. So we've got teams, even which are 10, 15, 20 people for one business. In my previous life, we built this large team of almost 150 people who were working on front, middle, and back office. So this is not limited to just marketing. We've also got people who are UK trained accountants, payroll officers, administrators. So depending on what you want, we just built somebody a website, a recruitment company in the States. So depending on what you want, we'll deliver that.
Excellent. Yeah. And I was connected to you from the previous person, Josh, as well.
Yes.
You know Josh, don't you? He's been on the podcast before, actually, and he's on mentalbusiness.com as well. I mean, what's the journey with Josh there? Because he's in recruitment in the UK. Do you ever have any headbutting between UK recruiters and India recruiters? By the way,
Well, I think it's a normal team scenario when you work in when you're working for a recruitment business or a sales business. You've got recruiters who are onshore, you've got recruiters who are offshore, and depending on what's the scope of work. Now, most of the times, this happens more often in healthcare recruitment and in tech recruitment, because it's similar activities which are sort of mirrored through. Not so much in other sectors. So most of the times, outsourcing model complements the onshore teams to do more. So I'll give you an example of a recent client, a tech recruitment company, from Manchester.
yeah.
In 4 months, they invested about £5,000 with us, and we've been able to deliver £80,000 worth of fees just in 4 months. That's like 12 times the ROI. What we've done is, obviously we've been able to cater to more jobs, contact more candidates, and then book in more interviews to get more placements, which help their consultants make more money.
Yeah, getting them to focus on the things that really move the needle.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And again, their decision was to look at this model, especially with the fluctuating job flow in the UK market. And job flow is just one example, but if you're in business, you work in a very cyclical market, especially right now, and probably this is the new normal, where obviously 1 month there's a feast, other month there's a famine.
Yeah, we refer to that on the podcast as like the waves in the ocean. Sometimes there's some small waves, big waves, and some of the waves that you can get your surfboard and have a nice ride of the wave. But if you miss it too late, you're gonna crash. and get
Totally,
crashing.
totally, and then that's why this model works well, because what you're not doing is you're not taking on a fixed cost, number
Mm.
one. And although you take on a small amount of fixed cost every month, but there is no long-term commitment. You're not signing up for 12, 24, 36 months. So it's flexible, it's scalable, it's tailored. Uh, so as long as you're clear about what you want, we do the heavy lifting for you, and we help you, get this off the ground.
Yeah, yeah. Well, what I like about it is that you more visibility and awareness of what you do. I mean, we break some of the old myths, and I certainly had some beliefs that weren't true. Um, that once I've started with you, it started to break those beliefs, and now I honestly believe, like, well, hold on a minute, why don't I look to this before I even consider employing? Now, that's dangerous for the UK economy. It really is. But it also means that the people that they need to be on their toes to learn and develop. So it's actually good for the UK economy because they need to step ahead of the game. They need to be training. They need to be on, making sure that they're delivering and make the companies better off and profitable and doing a good job. So yeah, I'm glad that this bridge is now available, and more people need to hear about it, because if they don't, they can hold their business back. They really can hold their business back if they don't understand what options are out there. And then it's a safe thing to do, and it's good. It's good for everybody. It's a win all round.
Absolutely, and then for any solopreneur, especially, or SMBs, leaders listening, the biggest bottleneck in every business is the CRM.
Yeah,
You have most of the times you'll start with the Excel sheet and then move on to a CRM, but then you'll have 1,000 leads which are dated, which is your gold mine, because you want to make sure that those are updated. So that's the starting point. You can either look at a freelancer or somebody part-time to cleanse it, to rev up your marketing engine. And I know obviously you got a business, Lewis, who does that,
yeah,
helping generate leads and generate more prospects.
yeah.
So it's a win-win for business leaders, obviously, who want to win their time back and then make more money.
Yeah, and look, okay. Hey, I hope you're enjoying the show so far and you're getting a lot of value from it. Look, we do this for free because it's our vision to help more businesses and their teams scale and actually achieve what they went into business and their career for. So these raw boardroom style conversations deliver the real data on what works and what doesn't, saving you time, money, and most of all, making sure that you don't miss on these opportunities that could really help you scale. Sharing it with people really, really supports us on these podcast platforms so we can achieve our vision. So if you have a like-minded friend, colleague, or business owner that could get value from this, thank you for sharing it with them. You know who you are, and greatest respect for everybody that's doing that so far. And if you haven't, then please support us. Let's get back to the show. So let's talk about AI.
Yeah.
How do you see AI affecting your business in the future?
So for us, AI is always complemented. Even in the last 12 months. Talking from impact perspective, yes. Earlier, let's say a business needed 10 people. Now, they might need 2, because you got the AI tools. But we are yet to come across a tool that does everything for a specific function, right? I was talking to somebody who's a chartered accountant in the UK, and then obviously a FD. They're like, I'm still looking for a module that does end to end when it comes to finance and accounting. So we say, we've got a couple of people who are doing their accounts based out of India. So yes, it has had an impact on the numbers, but at the end of the day, our job is to drive efficiencies using whatever tools available to make sure that our clients win, and then they can save as much as they can, so that if their business grows, our business grows. But you'll still need people to use those tools.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's like you mentioned about willpower lead generation. So that's a company that calls, doing the phone calls, reaching out, booking appointments for people. James Willis has been on the podcast before, and it's quickly moved towards, well, there is another package here which is probably about a fifth of the price, where we can manage your lead gen from a LinkedIn perspective. Oh, well, we can get, there's AI tools that can do all this sort of stuff as well. Yeah, but they lose the human element, and who also trains this sort of stuff? I mean, LinkedIn itself is AI, it's algorithm, right?
Yeah.
You've got to be on board with it and work it, and it's finding that balance of there is still a human behind it who's ready to talk. I mean, if anybody messages on my LinkedIn or they get an outbound message from me for either like investment or for mentalbusiness.com or whatever it may be, Sakshi's onto it, talking as a human as well, and saying, Lewis, you need to get back to this person. I've said hello, but it's now your turn to do it. So you can build a business the way that you want it. For me, I have the rules of the game that it always needs to be human. It needs to be them and me they're talking about. I don't want them talking to a robot.
Yeah.
Many chats as well. Many chat is out there right now. You speak on Instagram, and you kind of accept it that I'm speaking to many chats. I had a platform the other day that I'm using to host mentalbusiness.com on, and I needed some support with it. And then this one come back, Jan was talking to me, and I realised, 6 emails in, Jan is AI. That's pretty scary. Hi, Jan. Love you, Jan. It was getting a bit weird. But as soon as that started to come through, and I said, look, is anybody else that isn't AI? They was onto it, and I was speaking to a human. I was okay because the AI helped me. So it's all about like working with it in your business, and then people like Sakshi can start to help. They can guide it. They can work the CRM, find out what's the best offer and service for them from a human capacity. I haven't got time to sit there and read 50 inbound messages off LinkedIn. I get them from the podcast. I get more investor opportunities to come through. The need filtering and servicing quick. They haven't got time to wait 3 days for me to
No.
get onto my LinkedIn and watch it at 11 p.m. at night. I don't want that to be doing that, and it's not everything we ever coach either. There's more important things to be doing. So yeah, I think it's unique, and there's certainly always going to be a space in the world for people. It's just how they utilize the AI as well.
Well, totally. So at least at this stage, and again, a small example. So we also work for the UK real estate sector. So one of our
Yeah.
clients, they're a short-term rental business, with properties in the UK and Italy, and then they've got these AI tools where obviously there are automated messages sent out for reservations and the other stuff. But then they've got an administrator who's actually making sure that the queries are responded to, because you go checking into a property and there are things that you want to understand. How does a switch work? Sometimes because things are complicated. You're going into somebody else's home, and then they got different sort of instruments all over, or different settings. So we got somebody here who's guiding them through with whatever queries that come through. There's an AI tool that helps responding to whatever messages it's fed to, but then there's things which it can't handle.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So something that's just flagged from my brain then as well, Ketan, is that before I decided to outsource, and this is for everybody, I like to share my journey on here. So because there's people out there, either as £10 million businesses or just starting out, this is useful information for them to know, because it could accelerate their success by 5 years. They can do it in 30 days. What it took me 5 years to learn. I always think of like outsourcing to India, and I imagine like phone companies ringing me or cold calling and then picking up the phone and then hearing an Indian accent. And I think that really is one of the main reasons why in the UK people go, no, I don't want to be that pushy telly salesperson who's that. And it totally changed my views when working with your team members, because I'm like, that isn't good outsourcing. If that's not something that's effective, don't keep doing it. There is another way of doing it. I mean, how do you take the objections that you get when people say, oh no, I'd never outsource to India?
Certainly. So let's take a step back and rewind, go back to early 2000. How
Yeah.
did this all start? So it was big companies from the UK and the US. They came to India. Obviously, globalization. We need 100 people to handle our banking calls, inbound mostly, outbound. And the holy grail is the training that the company provides.
Mm.
And then most of the times the objection I come across is, oh, they're verbatim. It's all scripted. But I worked as a telesales, I've grown through the ranks. I used to work for Sitel in the past,
Yeah.
helping Dell customers, and then you are given a script. You go outside the script, you're penalized.
Ah.
Right. So you have to understand, and obviously, I don't expect each and every one outside, out there to understand that somebody's following a script because they've been directed to follow a script. And this is the model even today. A lot of businesses follow that. This is a script, stick to it. You're not supposed to say anything outside this. Yes, you're supposed to empathize, sympathize, but again, that is all within the script.
Interesting.
You're
So
only
it
supposed to
wasn't the
use these things.
people that's the problem. It's been the methodologies that they've applied.
Absolutely. It's the method. And then
Yeah.
right now, what I tell my clients, who are already, our clients, and to his prospects is, if you want to make this a success, you have to replicate what's working for you onshore.
Yeah.
You cannot have two different standards that, okay, fine, somebody from the UK will follow this and somebody from India will follow this. It
Interesting.
is standardization.
Yeah.
It should not be any different than, somebody picking up a call from your office and saying, hi, this is who we are. And it's the same pitch. And that's where the culture element comes into picture. It's not just bums on seats.
Yeah.
It's actually what has really worked for you. What kind of people really work well in your business? Do you need people who are very patient? Do you need people who are very aggressive? And it differs from business to business.
Yes. It's interesting, that is. I mean, it's not just like straight away you think outsourcing, we think like Indian telesales, but the amount of cold callers that we get. Okay, we spoke about sales. I mean, for quite about 20 episodes, I did sales podcasts on this podcast to train people in sales. And one of the things I always say is, if you can imagine what the word salesperson means to you, what comes to mind? And people always go, yeah, annoying, pushy, because they're thinking about when they were a kid and the person knocking on their door trying to sell them internet or TV packages or broadband or something. They're thinking about that is a salesperson to them. But I mentioned a story the other day, and I was like, one of the salesperson that I know that always comes to mind, wherever I go, Ketan, they're onto me all the time. Don't leave me alone. Always pushing, pushing, pushing. And she came to me the other day and says, Daddy, I just want you to buy the ball so I can play football with you. My daughter is the best salesperson I know, but I don't hate her for it. She's just passionate that wants me to get me to go and do something, and I haven't got the time for it. So the version of sales is like, well, we've got this construct that's developed, and it's not always true that we hold on throughout our life, and it can harm our business.
Yeah,
Every business needs sales. We all need
absolutely.
marketing.
Yeah.
So we just need to sort of open our minds a little bit differently to, there is a way that is possible, but perhaps the methodology is wrong.
Absolutely, and then as we progress, obviously the approach changes, how we think, and then how we react to different approaches. It changes as well. So, and then you gave a classic example of LinkedIn messaging and AI.
Yeah.
You can use that tool and send 1,000 messages, and then you're bound to goof up at some time. If you don't sort of review it in line with who your target audience is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. It's being ahead of the game and learning, and that's why we always need to keep learning. And even Sakshi, I've given her 2 books today. By the way, I've given her 2 books that she needs to go and read, because the language of the direction that I'm going, I need her to come with me. And she's like, "Yeah, I want to learn. I want to improve my career." Well, how many AIs do you know that go, "Yeah, Lewis, can I learn some stuff with you and be that?" It's there's other ways of looking at this. That's how I kind of get it. So yeah, I really appreciate you coming on today to sharing this information. I think we've helped a lot of business owners out there now as well break through some beliefs that they have around what they need to do for their next steps regarding employment, and giving them some different options that they can choose from.
Certainly, it's been a pleasure, Lewis. And if anyone wants to obviously reach out to me, they can connect with me on my LinkedIn.
Well, we'll put it into the comments.
Okay,
So
awesome.
we'll,
Sounds
we'll
good.
we'll put it into the comments on the podcast. If you want to connect with Ketan, then we'll give you the link in the comments.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me
Show
here.
notes, shall I say? Show notes in the show notes. Yeah.
Yes.
Cheers, Ketan. Speak to you next time, mate.
Cheers. No worries. Thanks, Lewis.